AAA Live! AAA Live! AAA Live!
Ang palatuntunang maghahatid sa inyo ng kaalaman sa edukasyon upang magbigay liwanag at gabay sa ating mga mag-aaral at magulang.
Where your academic goals will be advanced and achieved. AAA Live!
Lilinang ng inyong talento at huhubog ng inyong husay upang magtagumpay sa karerang tatahakin.
AAA Live!
At ngayon, narito ang guro ng bayan, Attorney AMIHAN April ALCAZAR.
Hi, I'm Billy Whittaker, founder of Bronco Power Boost.
The Bronco Power Boost is a battery-operated backup power supply for your home, condo, or office. This backup power supply gets installed wherever your electrical panel is located and will automatically provide you with backup power during a power outage. Your Bronco Power Boost can be configured to power 6 essential circuits in your home. Most families choose to keep the fridge running, the lights, garage door opener, and security system on, as well as charging power for their most important communication devices, like Wi-Fi, cell phones, and computers. When the power goes out, the Bronco Power Boost turns on automatically. You'll notice the lights flicker for a second and then automatically turn back on. Some people don't even realize the power is out. This battery-operated generator will last over 20 hours, and if you'd like more backup power time, you can purchase an additional battery and double the time it will last. Even better, by adding our popular solar panel kit, you'll be able to manage your way through these extended outages. Installation of your Bronco Power Boost by one of our certified contractors is quick, and this battery-powered generator is small. The Bronco Power Boost is 16 inches wide and 31 inches tall. It is around the size of a small filing cabinet. It can sit on the floor near your electrical panel, and once it is installed, you'll never have to worry about harmful emissions or being left in the dark again.
To learn more, go to broncopowerboost.com.
Audience and televiewers, welcome to AAA Live here at Katipunan channel. So you may follow, like, and subscribe to us in our YouTube and Facebook channel. So for this evening, we will be joined for the field of renewable energies by Mr. Billy Whittaker, the President and COO of Bronco Power Boost LLC. So it's going to be very interesting because he joined us here in the state of Tennessee. So as you can see, he's wearing a very typical cowboy hat. So how are you today, Billy?
I'm doing great, and I'm excited to be here and share some of what we've learned about our renewable energy stuff.
That's great. So firstly, I'd like to ask a little bit about when you were a young person, if you can remember that. So how and when did you think you had this interest in kind of like being in renewable energies when you were a young child? Like, did you play with toys? Were you interested in electricity or energy?
Yeah, absolutely. So my background is an electrician. I just started out, basically wiring houses and then going through the different fields, right up to working in places like nuclear plants and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then what I realized, later in life is that, not everybody has the same opportunity to have electricity, especially in outages. And that's become really prevalent the last couple of years. And, generators have been a big thing. But as we know, with gas generators, with the cost, of course, with the emissions and all of that, my mind started saying there's got to be another way that's cheaper to get people backup energy. So that's really where Bronco started. Was we looked at, what are people doing when the power goes out? So we were really geared for, local here in Tennessee and then across the US. And we were approached about 6 months in by actually the government in South Africa. And it really got us thinking because our patented technology is not just for, a battery backup system for your home, but also includes solar, pedals, and even wind. So, when we put all that together, we started thinking, again, dealing with that government, was how could we make a difference in people's lives that have access to no electricity?
So maybe we can backtrack a little, Billy, because a lot of our audiences, because we're really talking about the education here in our program, AAAs, where your educational goals are achieved and advanced, right? So education is transformative, as you were saying. So what do you think are some of the skills or interests that should be developed by young people if they have an interest in the field of energies, electronics, and what kind of experiences do you think they should be looking at?
Absolutely, it's getting the basics, of course. So we all know that school is a great avenue, but we also know that tools in your hands is very important. So my avenue was find something that interested me, which was electrical work. Pursue that and realize, okay, if I'm going to do this in life, I want to understand, not just twist two wires together, but why am I twisting those two wires?
Yeah.
So then I mixed in, the actual physical work and gaining knowledge that way. But I also went to community college, which is, affordable and easy accessible, at least, in our country.
Yes.
And with the two mixed together, and then the different experiences and just realizing that it doesn't matter how much you know, even today I'm going to learn something. And, especially with this renewable energy, with the fact that, we want to make life great for everyone, regardless of where they are and what their background is. I've also realized that, those same people from those same backgrounds, if they want to learn, if they're interested, we can teach them, whether it be Bronco coming to Philippines and we set up, our plant and we build them there for those people. One of the things we talked about earlier was the rural areas that have no electricity. And, ideally by using, solar panels and/or we actually have the wind, or even we have a pedal bike that you can sit and pedal. Your kids can be actually charging the battery. So that evening they can be on their laptop computer with their Wi-Fi on. And, we're changing their life because, a lot of those people, as we know right now, they don't have access to any of those things.
Yes. So another thing that we were talking about, Billy, really is about the context of the Philippines. And you know that because it's very similar to like the kind of projects that you were doing in South Africa and renewable energy. So you mentioned about solar. So we have a lot of sun naturally in the Philippines, being a tropical country. It's an archipelago. So we have ocean, we have wind because it's near the sea. So do you think this promotion of renewable energies is very much part of a possible developmental plan that can be done in the Philippines?
Oh, absolutely. We could do that starting tomorrow. The difference with us and say your big
Yes.
companies
Yes.
is we do things more individual. So in other words, we're going to bring a Bronco unit. We're going to, it's going to come to that one home.
Yes.
Where they're going to have their own solar, their own wind. They're going to pedal their own bike if that's what they want to do.
Yes.
And they're going to create a different life for that one home. So what we're doing, instead of trying to build a huge grid that we all know is an issue, because if you get one problem in that long chain link,
Yes.
one link breaks, then the grid's done.
Yes.
With our concept, we're going to individual homes. So each home can be affected and affect themselves directly. So,
And we're also talking about renewable energies here as a form of conservation for our environment. So is this also really like one of the important principles that you would like to promote in Bronco?
absolutely. At one time, as an electrician and owning my own company here in Nashville, I was installing a lot of gas-powered generators.
Yes.
And what a lot of people, and even myself, don't realize is that because it's an engine, even if you don't have an outage, you have to run that gas generator depending on which brand, but some of them up to an hour every week. Well, it doesn't sound like a big deal, but you start putting, hundreds and then thousands across the country, and they're running an hour per week just for maintenance purposes. You're really touching, the environmental side of things. With the solar, of course, it's there. It's just how do we saddle that energy and use it? And now, my concept is we've saddled that energy. We're going to change the life of that 8-year-old boy who's never turned the light on before. He's never been able to flip open a laptop and never had Wi-Fi. So I think, without talking about spending a lot of money, we can change lives dramatically.
And so I think how it came into contact, of course, Billy, is through our own affiliation with the Tennessee Renewable Energy and Economic Development Council, because there is a strong link between the use of renewable energies and how we can help in economic development. So this is again one of the main goals of Bronco Power, correct? To really aid in economic development.
Yes, because what I designed and developed is it's what our patent says is that we have all of the things that are needed to make that system all into one box. So once it leaves the factory or the shop, it is very simple to hook it up. It's very simple to manage it. There's no maintenance, and it's automatic. You don't have to do anything. So very simply, we could go into a region of your country. We could take, willing participants that have zero background in electricity, zero background whatsoever in what we're doing. And, as long as they have the attitude that they would like to learn, we have the attitude that we would like to teach and help. So we could take that area, we could set up very simply and manufacture our product. Of course, we would have certain items manufactured and shipped in, of course. But as far as putting it together, building the unit, and then installing it, we could teach that locally. So we would be helping in more than one way. We're going to change people's lives that have no electricity. And we're not going to hurt the environment. And we're going to have people that didn't have opportunity or jobs to come and work for us, learn with us, and then maybe go, expand further. And who knows where they might take it. But it would be a stepping stone for sure.
So I think what's really important here, Billy, what you've emphasized is one, on the level of knowledge in terms of like the kind of education that people maybe should be getting besides just what is taught in school. It's the experiential learning. And then the second one is about the protection of the environment, that we should be mindful about how we are affecting our environment in whatever work that we're doing. And then, of course, lastly is that in our work, our goal really is economic development. And so what we're going to be doing is through this energy sector and work that we will be doing is that we want to contribute to transforming people's lives, because they will have then economic development. So I think, for us in the Philippines, those are very key principles that we would like to encourage, especially foreign direct investors and investments like your businesses to come to the Philippines. So what do you think is going to be a key motivator for you to see your company come to the Philippines and invest in the Philippines?
Well, obviously, we've made a huge step today by meeting you and going over some things. And again, with being a partnership with 3DC, who is also very entangled with the Philippines. I've already been speaking with them, with Warren and Dwayne, about coming to the Philippines, because it sort of fills in all the blanks of what we would like to do as a company. Of course, we have to financially do the right things to still be here, but we also want to do the right things to help, the world, or, we're all in this world together. And we see that, not everybody has the opportunities. I was lucky enough in life that I took advantage and was able to absorb the knowledge and so forth, but not everybody has that opportunity.
And this field of renewable energy is going to be like possibly one of the forefront progressive and developmental fields that we could look into in the Philippines, correct, Billy?
Yeah, oh, 100%. And the thing is, we're talking about the Philippines, but you know, we get things going there as far as what we're talking about for these people that don't have any electricity and what product we're seeing here. We can build Broncos and install them everywhere that there's no electricity. And, you know, that's endless, as we know. You know, we're spoiled here in the United States because everybody has access to electricity. And, you know, and I'm one of them. Without meeting you, we had no idea, you know, the vast numbers of people out there that we could change their lives so dramatically just by them being able to turn a light bulb on at night.
And this is very literally because they really have not experienced how it is to live a life with electricity, if you can imagine that, Billy. And it's not very isolated because we have 7,100 islands in the Philippines. So it's very much dispersed all around the country. And we are also a disaster-prone country. So we experience a lot of difficulties with access and maintenance of these electric producers and distribution of electricity.
Yes, and again, my original Bronco idea was for the disaster idea of when the power goes out, Bronco kicks in automatically and you're going to have your essential circuits. So being that it's designed for that, you know, and we put it in an area that's prone for it, they don't have electricity anyway. You know, those disasters aren't going to affect the Bronco because it's all enclosed in that one household.
Yes. So it would seem that from your background, you were always like this tinkerer and you were probably like doing all of this work when you were playing with your toys and maybe trying to put it together. So what sort of like explorations could you encourage the young people if they had such an interest in either mechanics or really putting together? Because like, look at what happened to you. You eventually became an inventor with patents for your design.
I think my background's very similar to yours, that I've got different avenues that I went down. And then it seems that now later in life, all of those things came together to let us, you know, get a patent. Well, nobody knows how to do that. You do, because you're, you know, that's your background. But you know, when it was time for me to do all of these things, it was really interesting how simple things like math. You know, of course, I was never a scholar in math, but you know, just learn your basic stuff and all that, because you need that to come natural to you so you can let the other stuff come out. So my thing is, you know, whatever you like to do, whether it be sports, you know, just take advantage of the fact that, you know, if you're going to play a sport, you know, make sure that, you know, you become friends and you learn how to deal with people and so forth. Because like for me, I feel I can go in any room and talk with people. You know, I may not be the best speaker in the world, but I certainly enjoy it. So, you know, I can reach out because, like I said earlier, you never know everything. You're always going to learn something, and you can learn something from, again, that 8-year-old young guy that's standing over there might look at you and look at something you've been doing the same way for years and say, well, why don't you do it this way? You know, but with our minds, the way we're wound is, you typically tend to do things the same way over and over. You know?
But it's never too late. Billy, always to be a lifelong learner, meaning if we have the opportunity to learn new things, then we should really take advantage of that. So I think for the very last words that we will have, Billy, maybe you can describe for us, just in a nutshell, how you came to this idea of the Broncos when you were talking about, you thought about the disasters, you talk about the power outages, and what kind of skills did you bring into like this kind of invention that you have made?
Mine is a real story of a need. And what happened with that was basically, you know, we see on TV, well, the natural disasters happening. Then, you know, that adds up with, you know, the environment and so forth. And then with my skills in my company as an electrician, you know, I'm being asked, more and more to install these gas generators.
Mhm.
So all of that sort of playing on your mind.
Yes.
And then I went to install a generator actually in New York.
Mhm.
And I went to the local township and they said, well, you're an electrician, sure, you could put one in.
Yes.
But that area where you want to put in the generator has two problems.
Okay.
They have to have wider lots because they want to be able to have the firemen run in and out.
Okay.
And
In terms of like the land
the
area,
space,
the
right?
space,
And then the second one, when I told him the address, he said, well, that whole area has a noise ordinance.
Mhm.
So even if you had enough space, you couldn't put
Put it in.
a gas one because of the noise ordinance.
Uh-huh.
So I honestly woke up at 3 o'clock that next morning
Yes.
and I sat up and I went and I had to write it down.
Yeah.
And I came up with the idea. I said, with the advantage now of solar,
Yes.
with the new battery systems that are being developed,
Mhm.
wonder if I could come up with a way
Mhm.
of making a generator that does everything that one does,
Mhm.
but it can go indoors
Mhm.
and it's a battery, so it makes no noise.
Ah, okay. So you tried to attack it in two ways.
Mhm.
One was, okay, how can it perform what has been being done by the gas generator?
Yes.
But how do I get around the idea of the noise ordinance?
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then what happened next, Billy?
I ordered a bunch of parts I thought I needed.
Mhm.
I screwed them on the wall in a garage.
Mhm.
I hooked them up to the light. And when my wife came home from work, I said, come here for a minute.
Okay.
And as she walked in, I just reached up and I turned the power off
Yeah.
in the house.
Yeah.
So
it's
the
a-
power should be gone.
Okay.
And in 1 second, the light bulb came back on.
Yeah.
And she said,
What happened?
well, actually, she's an architect, and,
Okay.
so she has that mindset.
Yes.
And she just looked at me and she said, without really saying anything, it was
Yeah.
like, is that really doing what I think it's doing?
Exactly.
So that was the start
Uh-huh.
of, okay, we can cross off a lot of boxes here.
Mhm.
And right away we started talking and saying, well, wow, no more gas. That's
Yes.
amazing.
Uh-huh.
There's no noise.
Yes.
Let's look into it a little further and see what's out there and whatever. So what I basically have done is taken your little portable idea of charging your phone.
Yes.
And I've taken the big idea of the gas generator that works all automatically.
Yes.
And I've put all of that together in a package
Mhm.
that, is probably 1/4 of the cost of the gas one.
Yes.
So my whole goal always was, I could build this any size and any strength.
Yes.
But what I wanted it to do was be able to do enough to change your life
Yes.
in an outage,
Uh-huh.
but not cost the average person where they couldn't.
Fortune, yeah.
Right. So this way, instead of trying to sell to the 2% of the people in the country,
Yes.
my goal was to sell to 95% of the people.
Yes.
So always that's been a big part of it is, okay, if I go down that road,
Mm.
is it going to cost too much?
Exactly.
And I would a lot of times bring it back into perspective.
Mhm.
And, within a little less than a year,
Mm.
this whole project came together
Mm.
with the UL approval, which is very important,
Exactly.
as far as being safe
Yes.
and getting inspection if you
Yes.
need it, and insurance. So that was one of my top priorities.
Mhm.
And we were able to accomplish that.
Mhm.
So we're ETL and UL approved.
Yes.
And then, of course, the big one is the price, and does it make sense for people
To install it.
to install it, and then to make it very simple.
Mhm.
So because the whole thing is in one box,
Mhm.
it's all pre-wired
Mhm.
before it leaves our shop or our
Because I think safety, I mean,
Safety.
for people who are not familiar with the intricacies or the workings of electricity or electronics, it could be very frightening to be involved in something
Sure.
like that, right?
Sure. So with our product, at this point, I have electrical companies, 7, 8 states now.
Mhm.
And as we're growing and expanding, and it's happened very fast. It's
Yes.
exciting,
Yes.
obviously. We just added a guy on Blanton Electric yesterday who installed one in Kentucky.
Yes.
And,
Wow.
and when they come to us, it's very interesting because as an electrician,
Mhm.
you think generator, sub panel,
Yes.
transfer switch, all these other parts.
Okay.
And when they get to us, and I show them how it works. And, you know, of course, that's the best way is that video is where,
Yes.
you know, a picture's worth 1,000 words. And
Exactly,
basically we
yes.
bring them in, we turn everything on, we turn the power off, and in 1 second, everything comes on again. You don't have to explain it. It's right there.
Okay.
So with this gentleman, as an electrician, he come in expecting, you know, a page full of all these things he had to do.
For
to
the
hook it up.
instruction manual. and
Exactly, when
everything.
really all he had to do was take it with him,
Yes.
put the flex into his panel and change a couple breakers.
Okay.
And they always say to me, is that it?
Yeah.
You know, is it that simple?
Uh-huh.
And it literally is that simple. So that's why I say, even to build them, you know, we could take this product to Philippines
Yes.
and in no time, we could be building them there,
Okay.
installing them there.
Uh-huh.
And, you know, we're changing a lot of people's lives on both sides of the fence
Yes.
as far as giving them jobs. But it's not just the jobs and the money.
Yes.
We're teaching them something that, you know, a value in life. And I have a couple of people that have been involved with Bronco that said, you know, I love it. I think it's the neatest idea in the world. This is why I bought one for my home. But I'd like to be part of Bronco. How could I do that?
Yes.
So I've, you know, it's like, how, I don't know. I said, well, just tell your friends and, you know, we can set you up as a salesperson type thing. And of course they always say, oh gosh, can I come and sit with you for a while and
Yes.
learn what to say and all that?
Yeah.
And I said, there's no fear in this one
Uh-huh.
because you're automatically the second most knowledgeable person about a Bronco in
Yeah.
our state.
Uh-huh.
You're one behind me,
Uh-huh.
but nobody else knows how the Bronco works. So you're way ahead of them, you know, and it's kind of a confidence builder.
Yes.
And, you know, you kind of, we laugh and make fun, but, you know, in life, as we all know, with the sadness and all the things that are going on and the
Yeah.
worries or whatever, if you can take a young person, you know, a teenager, whatever, that really doesn't have an objective rate yet,
Yes.
you know, we can take them in and either teach them how to build them or how to go install them. And, you know, all of a sudden the confidence is there that that young person can say, you know, I'm the only one in this town that even knows how to do this.
Exactly.
And that goes a long way in life. So
Yes.
that's why we want to, you know, that's why, as I learned with Tree DC and with yourself, we're saying, okay, the opportunities to really change lives for people with our, what we call small idea or product are huge if we could come to a country like yours and,
Yes.
you know, go to those areas that aren't quite there yet.
So with that, Billy, I think, you know, we have a very good momentum here towards renewable energy, which is kind of still at the forefront in the Philippines, something that we would like to do to really encourage and promote protection of the environment, economic development. So our last words, Billy, with respect to when Bronco Power will be coming to the Philippines, hopefully very soon.
Yeah, oh, absolutely, very soon. We've got our product here. We've put it out there. We've learned really fast that it works very well in the rural or off-grid areas.
Yes.
You know, again, that wasn't the original design. It wasn't what we were thinking of. Of course, it works great for the home and the backup power.
Yes.
You know, but that's just an hour or two now and then, and it doesn't affect lives like what we can do when we come to Philippines and we go to those areas, like we said, where that young man's never turned their computer on.
Yes.
And we're ready to do that. We've got the product, it's built, you know, it's safe, it's very simple, and it's just a matter of, you know, reaching out with the right people and saying, okay, we want to introduce you to the government or, you know, whomever we need to say, yes, we need your product. We want to help you change lives there.
Okay.
So-
So on that note, Billy, so I very much appreciate your presence here with us today to really get our audience interested in renewable energy, to look forward to the time when this is part of the recovery that we may be undergoing after this pandemic. Okay, so thank you so much, Mr. Billy Whittaker, the President and CEO of Bronco Power LLC, and we're looking forward to you coming to the Philippines very soon.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and we'll be back.
Thank you very much.
We're back. So good evening again to everyone. So welcome back to AAA Live, where your academic goals are advanced and achieved. So this is Attorney AMIHAN April ALCAZAR. And so we're with our guest for tonight, Mr. Christopher Austin Avallone. He is a graduate of the Masters of Business Administration at the University of Tennessee, Martin, and he's also the housing manager of the university. So I'm here to talk about his experiences, when he was a student and how he came about to actually being interested in business administration. And now he won an award for a business plan that he was able to present at a competition at the university. So welcome to our show, Austin.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. So actually, I was really interested about what kind of interest you had as a young person and how you eventually knew and when you were interested in some form of a business or entrepreneurship, or even the course that you eventually took.
Sure. So growing up, I think I always enjoyed being outside, doing stuff. And I grew up on a rural farm in Middle Tennessee. And so I was always outside in the barn, tinkering with something. And I think from a young age, it kind of sparked an interest. And I'll be honest, actually, when I came to college, I didn't come in as a business major. I actually came in as a political science major. And throughout my freshman year, I switched from political science to international relations. And then by the end of that first year, I landed on business administration.
Okay. So it took you a while to really explore the different possibilities for you. But do you remember when and how you eventually decided that business was going to be your course of study?
Yeah, I think it really just took getting into the political science and international relations and realizing that it just wasn't specifically what I wanted to do. And I think it was going through the process of those courses. And then I had mixed in, because it's all in the College of Business and Global Affairs here at UT Martin. So I had some management classes, and it was really, once I started taking a few management classes, I realized, hey, this is more in my lane of what I like to do. And so that's when I decided to make that change.
So do you think it's always a good advice for young people to try to explore different avenues, because you may not altogether know right away what direction you will eventually be taking?
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like a lot of students come in and they get worried about the fact that, whatever course they chose when they first started is what they need to stick with. And that's not the case. At the end of the day, you want to be doing something that you're happy with, something that you're satisfied at the end of the day with the work that you're doing. So, if you get in and you realize that it's not really what you want to do, then, you should continue to explore, even if you're already, partway into a semester or whatnot. Just see what your what you want to do. And so that's
I think the interest is really important to first find out what is it that interests you. So the process itself of discovering what interests you could be equally as important as what the actual outcome is. So once you've determined that interest, though, what kind of skills or proficiencies or even personal experiences did you have that you think eventually helped you undergoing this course of study?
Yeah, so I think I was involved with a lot of extracurriculars. I came in as a political science major, so as soon as I got here, I joined several different political organizations, and I had the opportunity to travel to Washington, D.C., our nation's capital. I had the opportunity to see our president get inaugurated. I got to attend other functions where I was in the same room as the vice president as he gave a speech. And so those were some really cool experiences that were extremely rewarding for me. I also had the opportunity in my undergrad to go to Israel and travel abroad for a little bit. I got to meet with some, while that was not a function with the university, I got to do that still. And I met with some nonprofits that worked with some missions that are really close to my heart. So I really enjoyed getting to do that. And then while I was in school, I joined, I was hired as a resident assistant for our university. And that kind of was the launching pad for me into my career, what I do today.
Okay, so let's look into the different skill set that you were eventually able to develop in yourself while you were undergoing all of this experiential learning in the university. So, for instance, you mentioned about your experiences traveling to the different places in your country, the impressions that were made to you by your U.S. government officials, and then later on, the international relations that you were able to acquire when you went to Israel. So, those experiential learnings, what kind of skill sets did it eventually develop in you?
I think one of the major ones that I can think of is probably effective communication, and I think that's so important. No matter what field you go into,
Yes.
being able to communicate effectively with other people.
Yes.
And I'll just say that those experiences gave me a lot of like networking, a lot of opportunities to network with other people from other universities. And I think that while right now I'm in a career that I thoroughly enjoy, if I were to ever step away from this, those networks are going to provide other opportunities for me.
So when you eventually already started to work in the university, even as a student, how do you think that learning in the actual workplace, even though we're still in university, really helped you to gain a more integrated perspective of business?
Well, I think right now I work as the apartment manager for the university, so I'm a business administration major, working in management,
Yes.
Specifically property management. So
exactly.
I think that between the degree and the work experiences I've had, I've continued to develop both personally and professionally. Personally, being that effective communication, being an active listener, things of that nature.
Yes.
While professionally, I've gained experience on the job, and I was able to do that while working on both my undergraduate and my graduate degree. So my coursework was lining up a lot of the principles that we are learning in our coursework are lining up with what I'm doing day to day in real life. And that was so important for my development, I feel like.
So this kind of like model of learning, one is having the concepts being taught in the lectures or in the classrooms, and then eventually applying it to experiential learning in the workplace. Do you see that this is a very effective method or process of learning that really brought to you your focus to business eventually?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I feel like between the work experiences I had, it allowed that the applications in the coursework to come more natural, because I was
Did
living
it come
out
alive for them?
I believe so. Yeah, I believe so. And so it just was really just a really rewarding experience for me to be able to both work in a field that aligned with my major, with my coursework, and really just apply those day to day.
Yeah, so what you're saying is, even as a student, if we are able to have the interest already identified, and then trying to find the aptitude or the skill sets, and then eventually seeking those opportunities where we can apply, then it really brought to focus the relevance of all that you've been studying in the college, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. So after you were able to have this both theoretical as well as a practical application, when did you decide that you wanted to pursue actually a master's degree?
I think it was shortly. I mean, I started shortly after I finished my bachelor's degree, about 6 months later.
Yes.
And it was really, I just decided that I wanted to further my education. I was given the opportunity to further my education.
Yes.
And it was honestly a really rewarding experience, because I was able to take everything that I learned in my undergrad, and for my master's, it really was bringing it all together for me.
Yes.
And so I was able to understand that on just another level. And I think that it was a good move for me. And so, yeah.
So I think aligning what was already in your undergraduate, and then cumulatively now looking into the possibility of, in fact, improving that particular knowledge and skill base Was that what you thought your master's degree was going to acquire for you?
I believe so. I believe that what my expectations of it were probably surpassed in many ways. Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. I think it was surpassed.
Yes.
I really got into the program not knowing what it was going to look like.
Yes.
And I think especially during a season or a global pandemic, you know, I came in with a hybrid program. I was supposed to meet with professors face to face, and then we had to move to online. And while I was still at the university and they're at the university, we had to meet online.
Yes.
And instead of being in a classroom, so that presented its own challenges.
Yes,
it wasn't what I looked like, what I thought it would look like.
Yes.
But nonetheless, it was still a rewarding experience, and you know, we all adapted. And then that's, I think, what was super important. Faculty adapted, students adapted, and group members adapted for big projects.
Yes.
And
so I think many students actually are intimidated by the possibility that even as they are finishing university, they can't seem to get out of college. And yet you were talking about if an opportunity actually already presented itself and you're even still a young person, then it's always far better to look into this opportunity because you may not in fact have the time or the opportunity again coming past you, correct?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I'm a big believer in embracing the moment, and so you know I was given the opportunity. I didn't know what it was going to look like, but I jumped right into it, and it kind of learned as I went. And it was a great experience.
Yeah. So let's talk about your own experiences now in the master's program, because that's of a different level from the bachelor's degree. And you mentioned that one of the pivotal moments in your particular graduate studies was really this business plan competition, where when you were given an award and how it might eventually shape the trajectory of your career in the future.
Sure. And so I was given the opportunity. Well, let me step back. About my sophomore year in my undergrad, I had a business plan idea, and so I started.
What was this business plan?
It was a wedding venue, and so and the wedding industry is a big industry. I know, especially in the United States,
yes,
and I'm sure elsewhere as well. But I had this idea, and so I kind of started working with a few professors on what would this look like, developing this into a business plan. And so I was actually approached by a professor and said, hey, I'm going to be teaching this class next semester and I want you to take it. And it's
what class was that? Do you remember?
It was business plan writing.
Wow.
And so it was all about writing out a business plan, how to formulate it from just an idea to a full-fledged plan.
Yes, so the whole process of how you will eventually have an output of a business plan.
Yes.
And you went through, of course, this course and this process and came up with an actual business plan in your undergraduate program.
Yes, and then we had the opportunity at the end to participate in this competition where we had, it was a big dinner. We had friends, family, and a panel of judges. And these judges that were judging our plans were local entrepreneurs, local businessmen that were well-known and successful in our area. And we were able to get on stage and give a 5-minute pitch of our business plan while providing them a copy of the business plan. So they'd be reading it while us giving our pitch. And then we were asked a lot of questions. They grilled us with questions about what, different aspects of the plan. And so I went up against 14 or 15 other business plans and was fortunate to come out on top.
Yes. So, and why do you think your business plan was chosen among all of the contestants?
I think it was very thorough. I think it was well thought out. It was something that I didn't take lightly. I didn't come into the class and then start thinking about what I wanted to do. I knew what I wanted to do before I got to the class and had already begun trying to collect resources and knowledge from professors, people that have written business plans, local businessmen in the area that I respected. And so that at that point, I think it was just a very thorough plan. And I think I was able to formulate it well and present it well.
Yeah. So being very thorough isn't one of the possible skills that we would want to impart to our students in college, is that being able to conduct a thorough research before actually conducting any kind of business.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you really want to understand the market. You want to understand and do an in-depth, both internal and external analysis of your market, both in internal and external of your business plan or business idea. What is that going to look like? And so that's crucial. You want to make sure you've got your research done beforehand, because it is the, I guess what you would say, the bones of your business plan is that research.
So the preparation really was laid out when you were still in undergraduate. And so eventually what happened in the MBA program, as you said, you had this expectation that you were going to have face-to-face classes, but then because of the pandemic, you had to move online. And so there was hybrid learning. How did that affect the process of learning for you? But in also another case, it also provided the impetus for a kind of adaptability or resilience on your part.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, in our undergrad, we didn't have the COVID pandemic. So a lot of our research could be done face-to-face, or could be done, meeting people, networking at these functions, or going to see business owners.
And like what you said, the business competition was actual face-to-face, right?
Yes, absolutely. And so going into the MBA program, a lot of that research was done over the phone. It was done via Zoom calls. And so, yeah, there was definitely some adaptability that we had to have as far as doing research in the MBA program.
And so how would you differentiate now the experience that you've had in undergraduate and then the graduate program, and how did you meld and cumulatively build on what you've been doing from college days?
Yeah, I think that differentiating the two, it was two different experiences, really. While it was both at the same college, two different experiences. We were presented a different set of challenges for the MBA program, but like I said, the adapting to those situations, I think made us as a cohort, as individuals in a cohort, more stronger and more well prepared for, I guess our future.
Yes. You also mentioned about the different extracurricular activities that you were involved in, and even a hobby. You mentioned that you have this hobby of photography. So can you also tell our listeners, mostly who are students, parents, and educators, how very important it is for your development as an individual to involve yourself, even when you're still in college, with all of this experiential learning outside of your course of study or the classroom?
Yeah, absolutely. So photography is just something, both photography and videography are something I really enjoy doing. And I think for me, it was almost like not really an escape from the day-to-day of college, but in some ways it was an escape. It was a hobby that I picked up. I didn't have it in high school or anything like that. It was just something in college, and it allowed me to kind of break away from college studies and focus on something that I was passionate about. And so I had the opportunity to film videos at weddings, do photography for people in college, families that I've come to know and love in the community. And so it's just something that I really enjoy doing, and I continue to do to this day.
Yes. So besides the very strong foundation that you have now from your course of studies and all of the extracurricular experiential learning that you learned even outside the classroom, how are you now planning to use all of these skills that you have developed and learned in this span of time that you've been studying and also working in the university for your future? What had happened to the original business plan so far?
So to this day, I'm still mending the plan. I'm making small, finite changes to it as, because the market changes over time. And so, when I made the plan, the market has changed since then. And so I'm getting closer and closer to where I believe I'm going to have the opportunity to try to launch this plan and really take it somewhere. So right now it's just making small changes to our market analysis and just making small changes due to, responding to both our external environment for the most part. And so we're getting close. I think that the property management side of my work has really also prepared me for launching this.
Yes.
And so I think that I'm getting well prepared. And so while I had to plan back, for 5 years now, about 5 or 6 years now, I'm getting to a place where I'm more prepared to launch.
Yes, and don't you think that all those skills that you have developed from even your hobbies of photography to being a property management employee of the university will eventually complement your business plan and how it might eventually be operated?
Absolutely. So, with a venue, you deal with property management.
Yes.
But it's also in many ways a field of hospitality.
Yes.
Because you're dealing with
hospitality management.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you're dealing with a lot of guests, you're dealing with a lot of people from day to day. And so, and you've got weddings or events booked, throughout the week and on the weekends. And so I think that with my knowledge that I've learned through the undergraduate degree and the master's program, both developing skill sets, not only, understanding, the finances and the accounting and the human resources and all of those courses, but the other skill sets being, being able to communicate effectively with people, being able to be an active listener, being able to, be not just a boss, but be a good leader, a good manager, have all played a role in building this up, leading up to where we're going to be able to launch this business plan.
Yes. So what are your immediate plans for this coming year? Because we're still considering in the midst of a pandemic. So it would seem that these are challenges then, but instead there might really be an opportunity. How do you see yourself operating in such a work environment?
Yeah, so I'm going to continue working for the Office of Housing here at UT Martin, and continue managing this complex that we have. That's my immediate plans for now. Now, I believe that I'm going to begin preparing to talk with investors and talk with people about my business plan. And at some point within the next year or so, I believe that we're going to be able to take that next step, that big leap into the market and see if we can make this work. So
yes. And for instance, you are located in the middle of the United States. So how do you think it's possible to make it like more attractive for people to see your state and your particular area of Western Tennessee more attractive, because your possibility is to branch into hospitality management?
Sure. And so, we're in rural Northwest Tennessee, but it's really located near, you're near Missouri, you're near Kentucky, you're very close to Illinois and Indiana as well. Yes. And as well as being close to Memphis, which reaches down into Arkansas and in that area. So it's
and
a
Nashville.
really, and Nashville, not to forget Nashville. So it's really a good area strategically to place something like this. And so Martin itself is growing. This town is growing. Union City, which is a nearby city, is growing as well. There are companies that are coming in that are looking at what we have as far as infrastructure, and that being not just roads and highways, but our education. You're very local, very close to a local university, multiple local universities in this area. So, there's other companies coming into this area. There's great potential for growth, both residential, commercially, and I think a venue would do well in this area.
Okay. So I think what we've really just talked about is to illustrate really to our students and those interested in the education sector, or stakeholders, or parents, or educators, that the inception of your decision-making process could really start from a young age, from the time you're able to identify your interests, develop your skill sets, then maybe the focus comes into play, and then eventually the experiential learning to bring it together. So are you very excited now, Austin, of actually bringing to life these aspirations that you have?
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, I think it started from a young age of being outside in rural Middle Tennessee and just having those experiences of, with my family, tinkering with projects, and really, I guess, growing a sort of independence at a young age, that I was intrigued about the idea of owning my own business. And so that really, when I came to college, that really took off.
Yes, and so I think the preparation is almost half of what needs to be done, right? Because you've been kind of planning this for a long time, even as a young person, correct? And so now maybe eventually the time for the implementation. So that's the other half. Austin?
Yeah, absolutely. And so, like I said, preparation for us has been 5-6 years now. And since we've had this idea of a wedding venue, and doing that market research is not something that can be done overnight.
Exactly.
And so it's been a lot of preparation. We're getting close to where we think we can launch or launch from. And absolutely, I think preparation is 50% or more of what you need to begin a business.
And so possibly that time would come very soon that it will be, we will have the ability to actually launch it, because there's some ideas that need to marinate, as it were, to have this incubation or gestation. And that's why we say in business school, actually, there's gestation or incubation period for the business ideas to take root, correct?
Absolutely. And so I think for us, it was that incubation period has started sophomore year, and it hasn't always been the same. It's changed and developed over time. Our ideas that we had with it, what we thought it was going to look like in my sophomore year of college when we started this plan, are not the same of what I think it's going to look like now. And I'm sure when we actually get started with it, it's going to look even a little bit more different than what we expect even today.
Yes, exactly. So on that note, with a lot of excitement, Austin, so maybe you can give like some words of encouragement to all those who might not know exactly what it is that they are exploring or need to explore right now, and possibly try to look into these opportunities of business administration, entrepreneurship, or general enterprise for the future, whether it's a course of study or their eventual business.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think if you have an idea, don't be afraid to run with it. Don't be afraid to elaborate. Don't be afraid to ask questions, that may or may not make you feel uncomfortable, that you might have to really dig in and see, is this an idea that we can implement? What is it going to look like? And so I would just encourage you to also, network. Networking is such an important thing to do as a young person, and to build those relationships with other people, to be able to call on and ask, hey, I'm trying to do some research. Can I ask you a few questions and whatnot? Or they can help direct you and network even further with other people. And so I would just encourage you to network. Don't be afraid to ask questions, and really put yourself out there when trying to develop your ideas for the future.
Yes. So I'm very, very happy that you were able to join us today, Austin, that you had some time to share your experiences, because it's very important for young people to be encouraged and to see how other young people, their generations, actually dealing with the challenges of growing up, developing your own interests, and possibly preparing for your future. So I think there's so much potential that needs to be encouraged in the young people. So again, Austin, thank you so much for your time. So it was such a wonderful discussion that we have. And so we look forward to hearing very soon that you had launched your business for the future.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad I was able to join you.
Okay, thank you so much. So this has been Attorney Amihan April Alcazar, and we'll be back. Yes, good evening, and we're back on AAA Live. So I'm so happy that we had this very fruitful discussion with our two guests, which were interrelated because one, we had actually the owner of a business, and he started off as the inventor because of his background in the field of electronics, and then it was followed by a student who in graduate studies already won a business plan competition, is now on verge of launching his business for the wedding venue. So thank you so much for all of our listeners and our comments. So firstly, to our very good supporter, former Undersecretary from the Department of Education, Butch Valdez, thank you for your support and happy wishes to our show. Then we have a very good comment from one of our viewers, Reg Gonzalez, who says that electronics and software can project the Philippines into first world status in a few years only. So electronics is all about amplifier circuits. So I couldn't agree so much. So that's why we wanted to really look into the fertile grounds because it really can be done when we are very creative and are able to create this intellectual property, like our first guest who became an inventor and was awarded a patent for his product which he developed himself. Then we have Angelica Lisi, who's listening from Hong Kong. Thank you so much for tuning in. Mark Latasa from Pasig. And of course, listeners from Quezon City. So thank you so much, and we hope that you will join us again on AAA Live, airing every Wednesday here at Katipunan channel. So please like, follow, and subscribe to our YouTube and Facebook channels. And we hope to see you again next time during our episode. So again, stay safe and healthy, everyone, and we'll see you again next week.
AAA Live.
Inyong napakinggan si Attorney Amihan April Alcazar.
AAA Live.
Naway kinapulutan ninyo ng impormasyon at kaalaman ang talakayan ng mga ekspertong nakapanayam mula sa iba't ibang larangan ng edukasyon.
AAA Live.
Ang AAA Live ay mapakikinggan at mapanonood sa Katipunan Channel tuwing araw ng Miyerkules alas 7 hanggang alas 8 ng gabi.
Where your academic goals will be advanced and achieved. AAA Live.
Hanggang sa muling pagtatanghal.